In this installment, we're going to be breaking down Week 14 for you guys on DraftKings, bringing you the top stacks and top values. Let's get into it. Hey, yo! Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Chef D, and I'm here to give you the winning ingredients for your Week 14 slate on DraftKings. But before I deep dive to that, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Make sure you follow me on Instagram and Twitter at MetsNetsJetsD. Don't forget about that TikTok at Chef_D91. And don't forget about the Patreon if you want more DFS, betting, and fantasy football advice. All the links will be provided down below. Starting off with the stats, before we get into the value plays at each and every position, we are going to go to Minnesota. We have a NFC matchup here, NFC West matchup here NFC North matchup here between the Minnesota Vikings and the Detroit Lions. That current over-under is at 51.5. So this is a spot that we definitely want to tackle. And shockingly, the Detroit Lions are favored in this game. So maybe we can get a back and forth game script here. We saw Jared Goff go absolutely off. Let's check this stack out and see where we want to lean towards. So we got the Vikings going up against the Detroit Lions here. Kirk Cousins at 6,100. We're going to start off at that quarterback position. And this should be a good spot for Kirk Cousins to get things right. Again, obviously, he struggled against the New York Jets. That top-tier defense only allowed one passing TD. He only had 11 fantasy points. I expect Kirk Cousins to bounce back in this game against the Detroit Lions at 6,100. Nice middle range price, not spending too much, not 7,000, 8,000 type of salary. Kirk Cousins going up against one of the worst defenses in the league. Against these Detroit Lions. It should be in a good spot between him, Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, TJ Hawkinson. This should be a great spot for Kirk Cousins. And as you can see, opponent rank is 32nd overall. On the other side of the ball, Jared Goff, if you want to save a little bit of salary, Jared Goff is 5,600, and he came through against these Jacksonville Jaguars. I told you guys in that previous video that he was in a good spot. 2 touchdowns, a great QBR rating of 115.9, 24.6 fantasy points we saw from him, 340 passing yards. All right, Vikings give up the most amount of passing yards in the NFL. So we saw Mike White. He threw for 369 yards. Jared Goff should be in a spot where he's going to throw for another 300 yards. Amon-Ra St. Brown should be in a good spot. So I have no problem going either way in this stack. Maybe you want to go with Jared Goff so you can spend up more money and go get Justin Jefferson pairing with Amon-Ra St. Brown, but you're going to have to find value at some other places. Let's go toward the running back position. We have Dalvin Cook here. Okay game against these New York Jets, 16 fantasy points. Not that 20-point burst, but definitely better than what we saw the last previous weeks in Week 12 and Week 11. Now, this game, if we go to the matchup here, 28th ranked defense rushing-wise. Across the board, Detroit struggles defensively. All right, they've been playing just a little bit better, but here, Minnesota Vikings, they have so many weapons that they're going to have to give up something. Dalvin Cook could be the beneficiary with all the attention to their wide receivers. So Dalvin Cook is in a great spot at the price of 7,300. He's still under 8K, so he is still a value right now. Okay, for the running backs here, Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift. Williams is going to get the carries in that goal line area. Yet again, he has another touchdown against Jacksonville Jaguars. Got you 35 rushing yards, 1 TD. Just under double-digit fantasy points here. But they're utilizing DeAndre Swift a little more. So I'm going to lean more towards DeAndre Swift because he's getting some carries, as you see, double-digit carries we saw against Jacksonville. And he's also getting the receiving work. So we saw 4 of 6 for 49 last week. The week prior, he saw 4 for 8 for 24. The week prior, he saw 3 for 12. So you're seeing the work there in the receiving department. And that's what we're going to need. This is a PPR format here in DraftKings. The DeAndre Swift is looking like he's a little more healthier than what he was at the beginning of the season. So I like DeAndre Swift over Jamal Williams. All right, so definitely go with him. Let's go over to the wide receivers here. And we have, like I mentioned, Justin Jefferson in a great spot here. All right, there's no one that can stop this man. Obviously, Jets did a very solid job, only allowing 18 fantasy points. That's a poor day for him. Dallas did good as well. That's 6.3 fantasy points, but the usual is 25 plus from Justin Jefferson, and I think he gets things back rolling. And I have no problem going to that $9,000 in salary. He's going to get you 25 plus fantasy points in this matchup against the Detroit Lions. All right. Other guys we can look at, Adam Thielen. He's still the number 2 in this offense. Saw a little bit of downturn. That's just because Kirk Cousins struggled. Other than that, you see a little more consistency between Kirk Cousins and Adam Thielen. As you can see prior, 7 targets, 10 targets in week 12. If we go back further, he was on a streak of 7 to 8 targets each and every game. He needed to get in the end zone for him to have a good day. So Adam Thielen can be considered as well in your stacks. If you want to go really deep in the stacks, then you would go with KJ Osborne. He's going to have a blow-up game. You just don't know when. So other than that, he's going to be towards the back end. You're going to stick with your main 2 options of Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen in your stacks. If I had better cornerback play from the Detroit Lions, I could lean toward KJ Osborne, but I don't think we need to go that far at 3,500. On the other side of the ball for the Detroit Lions, Amon-Ra St. Brown is an absolute lock. Back-to-back games of 30-plus fantasy points against Buffalo and against Jacksonville. So this man, he's healthy, 100%. You're going to see double-digit targets, near double-digit receptions, and you should get over 100 yards. If he's getting in the end zone, that's icing on the cake. So 2 weeks in a row of great performances. I love Amon-Ra St. Brown in a whole game stack, match and pair with Justin Jefferson, but make sure you get a cheap quarterback to go with. So you might go with Jared Goff. And hey, Kirk Cousins is cheap as well. If we're going past Amon-Ra St. Brown, the number 2 option in this offense will be DJ Chark. He saw a very solid amount of targets last week in week 13 with 6 targets. Got a touchdown in week 12, so he's getting acclimated even more just in time for Jameson Williams to get back as well. So if you want to take a risk on him, he got worked in last week in his first game. As you can see, their rookie wide receiver. So he's going to get acclimated just a little bit more. Don't expect a big explosion from him just yet. All right, they're going to give him more and more work as the season goes along to an end. All right, so probably week 17, 18, 16, that's where you'll see Jameson Williams pop off. But we definitely do have to mention him. All right, let's go on to the tight ends. And these tight ends we're going to look at, we got TJ Hawkinson. As soon as they acquired this guy, they peppered him with targets. This is the true number 3 option on this offense. So you got Justin Jefferson, you got Adam Thielen, and you got TJ Hawkinson. That's who you want to go to. If I'm choosing 2 guys on the Minnesota Vikings side, it's going to be Justin Jefferson and it's going to be TJ Hawkinson at $5,100. I have no problem going towards him. He's in a great spot going up against his former team. So he's going to be really motivated in this aspect. I do expect if you want to choose someone that's going to get 2 TDs, TJ Hawkinson can be that guy. We want to stay away from the tight ends on the Detroit Lions side. Brock Wright is a pretty much non-factor. He gets you 1 or 2 targets. He needs to get in the end zone for him to pay off, right? So that's going to be the stack for Minnesota and Detroit. Let's move on to the next. The next stack we're going to go into will be the Cleveland Browns going up against the Cincinnati Bengals. AFC North matchup here in division. On this total currently, let's see where we're at, 46.5. All right, so this week's total is a little bit lower, so we're going to have to find some other options here, and this is going to be one of them that has potential here, mainly because of the Cincinnati Bengals and Joe Burrow's side. So Cincinnati Bengals, Browns, 46.5. We're going to be leaning towards that stack, and let's go towards these quarterbacks. We're going to stick. All right, the one guy we're going to choose will be Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is playing at a very nice level right now. Great matchup against Kansas City Chiefs. There's another great matchup here against these Cleveland Browns. In this particular game, matter of fact, there's actually a better spot than the quarterback position, but we have to mention Joe Burrow here. The last matchup, this was in Cleveland. He only got you 15 fantasy points, all right? The question is, will it be a full need to throw that football? Because one of the weaknesses of the Cleveland Browns is their run-stopping ability. So maybe Joe Burrow might be someone we don't have to fully lock in on this slate. All right, but I do have to mention I'm at $7,000 in salary, coming off a good performance, 30.4. Those red zone area touches, will it go to the running back or will Joe Burrow cash it in? So I'm definitely he's gonna be my favorite quarterback out of the two in this particular matchup, because Deshaun Watson is just coming back. Obviously rusty. You saw his first game against Houston. Yes, motivated, but rusty. Struggled mightily. Only 6 fantasy points in that game. Will he just go to the whole next level in this game against Cincinnati? I don't think so. I think it's going to be more time. So I don't want to rush into Deshaun Watson. Yes, he's going to be at a low ownership. If you want to take that risk, go ahead, fine by me. He does provide rushing upside. As you can see, 7 attempts for 21 yards, had a long of 11. But Deshaun Watson, I think he's just not too ready yet. I want one more week. Let me see one more game from Deshaun Watson before I'm hopping on to his salary at 6,400. So we're going to lean more towards Joe Burrow. If we're looking at the running back position, look at fantasy points allowed to running backs. And these Cleveland Browns are struggling. As you can see, 129 yards per game to the running back position, 5.4 yards a carry, all right? So that's going to be Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon is back into the mix, and he confirmed Thursday, cleared of the concussion protocol. Joe Mixon should be back into your lineups. Week 9 was his game, a big blow-up game against Carolina. So that's the type of scenario we can see if he's in a very good environment. Joe Mixon actually going off. Samaje Perine did very good in his absence, but Joe Mixon is back and he's in a great matchup. We're going to go to him at 6,900, and he should be cashing in on all your lineups. Probably 3, 4, 5, 6xing what you're paying up for. That'd be awesome to see from Joe Mixon. On the Cleveland Browns side of the ball, it's Nick Chubb, all right? Years prior, we could go towards Kareem Hunt, but he's just been struggling. They've been leaning on Nick Chubb's shoulders all season long. We saw 17 carries from him, 1 target receiving wise, but he's also in a good environment. If you're looking at fantasy points allowed to that running back position, the Bengals aren't too far behind. 26th overall, 31st in the red zone, allowing 87 yards a game, 4.3 yards a carry. They are giving up a touchdown a game, and that touchdown is going to go to Nick Chubb. So if he can provide 100 yards in a TD, you are in a very good predicament, and you're probably looking around 20 fantasy points from Nick Chubb, all right? So I'm liking him at his price as well, all right? Going on to the wide receivers. Jamar Chase is back, and we want to cash in on his big game because it's going to come. It's going to come very soon, and you don't want to miss it. All right. Right before he got injured with the hip, week 7 and week 6, he had both of those games over 30 fantasy points. Now, going up against these Cleveland Browns here, Jamar Chase is in another good spot. Showed that he didn't miss a step at all going up against those Kansas City Chiefs. 7 for 8 for 97 in that one. I think Jamar Chase gets in the end zone, probably provides around 100 yards. I'm loving him in this game against Cleveland, all right? T. Higgins is the number 2 option in this offense. He got in the end zone last week, but you saw a decline in the targets. Only 3 receptions, 5 targets, 35 yards, and a TD. That's because Jamar Chase is back. So, his salary hasn't been corrected yet. You might want to wait a week or two. If I'm going to choose a secondary option, I think I might lean towards Tyler Boyd. Tyler Boyd always flies under the radar, and he has had a very good salary here at $5,000 in salary. The cheapest he's been almost since week 1. All right, so Tyler Boyd is going to be someone we can consider. I think T. Higgins, his price needs to go back down just a little bit because he's at the price of what you would have spent when Jamar Chase was out. So I'm going to lean more towards Tyler Boyd as the number 2 option in this stack. On the other side of the ball, we got Amari Cooper. He saw a ton of targets, 9 targets against Houston, and he has that home and road split, all right? Home games, he's averaging 22. Away games, he's averaging 10.9. That game was at Texans in the previous week. He only got 8 fantasy points. We should see a good game from him the next time he is at home. So I might want to stay away from Amari Cooper. Like I said, we're not playing Deshaun Watson. He looks a little bit rusty. This Cincinnati team is clicking on all cylinders, fighting for that number one spot in the division because of the Baltimore Ravens injury at quarterback. So we might see a motivated Cincinnati team as well. We're going to stay away from Amari Cooper in this stack. One guy we're going to look towards will be Donovan Peoples-Jones. This man is super, super explosive, super consistent. He had a punt return for a touchdown last week against Houston. That's why he got 13.4 fantasy points. Chipped in with 3 receptions for 44 yards as well. But he showed consistency throughout the whole entire season, getting you above around 50 receiving yards and above. If you can get in the end zone, receiving in the end zone, then you're looking at someone that is definitely going to pay off at $4,900 in salary. So mainly in this stack, we're leaning more towards Nick Chubb. And we're going to stay away from Amari Cooper. He has those home and road splits, and Donovan Peoples-Jones was like a solid add at that wide receiver position as well. At the tight ends, if I'm hoping, so far everything is looking towards like David Njoku is going to play, and it's going to be a big boost here for Deshaun Watson in this Cleveland Browns offense. He's going to be one of the guys that's going to be my second option as a pass catcher. This man is a mismatch. All right, this is a huge mismatch. If Deshaun Watson can get David Njoku back. Deshaun Watson has a good connection with his previous tight ends from Houston Texans, and now he has a top-tier talent in David Njoku. And David Njoku was putting on a fabulous performance all season long, despite the fact of his injury mid-season comeback. He had 5 for 7 for 29 and a touchdown against Tampa Bay, and then he was worked in against Buffalo. So his salary at $3,900. David Njoku is an absolute steal and is someone that we can go towards, all right? For the tight end position for the Cincinnati Bengals side, we have an injury here on Hayden Hurst, and with him out, they're going to be leading more towards a committee, so we're probably going to stay away from these tight ends for Cincinnati. They got Mitchell Wilcox, who will fit in, Devin Asiasi, who was the former tight end for the New England Patriots. We're going to stay away from those guys. If I'm choosing one in particular tight end, it's going to be David Njoku if he's going to be able to play. All right, let's move on to the next stack. Our last stack will be another in-division game here between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Denver Broncos. This over-under is at 44, but it's pretty ugly looking at all the other games. All those other games are around 44 and below. But this one has potential here. If we're going to go into this, let's start off at that quarterback position for this game between the Chiefs and the Broncos here. I think it forces the Denver Broncos to actually score points. So then we already know about Kansas City Chiefs, all right? Kansas City Chiefs here, Patrick Mahomes. They're going to light up any defense. As you can see, Patrick Mahomes on a great stretch run of games of over 30 fantasy points between week 9, 10, and 11. Week 12 or week 13, just a little bit of a downturn. I think he gets things back cooking here. Patrick Mahomes is in a game environment where they will exploit this Denver Broncos team. That record of under games could change finally. It's been like 10 games out of all their 13 games season so far have gone under. Now, this game right here, they're going to have to deal with Patrick Mahomes and these Kansas City Chiefs and all the options that they're going to provide on the table. And that's going to be hard, all right? So we can go towards Patrick Mahomes. Not a lot of people are going to be playing him because it's the Denver Broncos defense. But I think this is a very contrarian play here, and it has upside. I would not play Russell Wilson. I would. Would I? I think this is a perfect. If there was a game, it has to be this one. It absolutely has to be this one. If you were willing to go that low, I'm definitely leaning towards Patrick Mahomes because I know he's going to have low ownership going up against this Denver Broncos defense. But also, if you think about it on the other side, Russell Wilson will be forced to keep up pace with the Chiefs, and he's going to have to throw touchdowns and put up yards as well. All right, so if we can get one game of old Russell Wilson, has he done that all season long? Let's see. Yes, he did it against the Raiders, and that game script was definitely high volume type of game, in division game, where he had 27 fantasy points, and then against Seattle, his former team, he had 20 fantasy points. So there is an environment where he can, and I think this is the one. So 5,100, if you're willing to take that risk. He's going to have near zero ownership and be super, super contrarian. So I like both quarterbacks in this game. Obviously, I love Patrick Mahomes a little bit more. Now, on the running back side, we have Isaiah Pacheco. He's the number one running back in this offense. We got 3 weeks in a row of double-digit fantasy points as well. He's getting double-digit rushing yards, and he's going to sprinkle in the receiving area as well. It's usually mainly Jerick McKinnon who's getting the receptions, but Isaiah Pacheco will get a few here and there. But this is the main guy. He's showing that burst. He has a lot of juice. I love Isaiah Pacheco at 5,700. So at his current price, he's going to get you around 15 fantasy points. And if he gets in the end zone, we're looking at even more. All right. On the other side of the ball, they have a little bit of a committee here. We got Latavius Murray. He's the main back if we wanted to go with someone here. KC, if we're looking at fantasy points allowed to that running back position, the Kansas City Chiefs are currently 9th overall, 14th in the red zone, allowing 82 yards, 4.2 yards a carry. It's mainly because they're not giving up the touchdowns in the red zone to running backs. It's usually more passes, so that's why I like Russell Wilson. But I do have to mention the fact that he's getting work rushing and receiving. He could be flying under the radar and get you double-digit fantasy points just to clear a cheap running back to give you just enough so you can pay up at some other spots. That's why you would go towards Latavius Murray. But hey, we got Isaiah Pacheco as well. He's around that same price range. He has more upside, so I'd rather go with him. All right, let's go over to the wide receivers. KC has a ton of guys here. Juju Smith-Schuster is going to be the number one wide receiver on this team, and he's getting back from his little concussion that he had previously. Still hasn't gotten to what we saw the production of Juju Smith-Schuster before his injury. So we saw a little bit of a downturn in the targets, 4 and 3 the past 2 weeks. That can change very quickly because obviously before that happened, he was on a nice little run and he's getting all the snaps on the field. So we got to choose a wide receiver that's going to be on the field, getting the ball thrown to him from Patrick Mahomes. Juju Smith-Schuster is that guy. We're looking for a number 2 wide receiver here. We're going to wait on news for Kadarius Toney. He has the possibility of playing this week, currently limited. He provides upside here. His game that he was finally healthy in against Jacksonville, you saw the upside there where he had 19 fantasy points. If you don't feel comfortable with Kadarius Toney, then you can go with Marquez Valdes-Scantling. He's more of a stretcher, deep guy, wide receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs. He only had one big blow-up game against Jacksonville all season long and only one touchdown so far this season. So it's not much we can bank on with Marquez Valdes-Scantling. But if we see Kadarius Toney back, then I could go towards him instead, all right? On the other side of the football, it's limited options for the Denver Broncos at the wide receiver position because Courtland Sutton is out. So that's going to be all Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy becomes a lock in this offense, getting targets and hopefully gets in the end zone. So I like his salary at $5,400. The question at the other wide receiver part is Kendall Hinton. It gets really ugly since they have no Courtland Sutton, no KJ Hamler. There's guys like Kendall Hinton that I would not trust, all right? If I'm choosing a number 2 wide receiver on this team, we're going to that tight end position, and we're going with Greg Dulcich, all right? Greg Dulcich had a very good beginning of the season once he got back from his injury with 12, 11, and 12. A little struggle, obviously, because Russell Wilson has been struggling, but back to normal against Baltimore, 6-8 for 85. He has a lot of upside at his current price at $3,400. I love Greg Dulcich at that tight end position. And then you got Travis Kelce. Obviously, this is the number 1 option on this team for the Kansas City Chiefs at $7,600. A poor performance against the Bengals. That's going to turn around 100%, and he's one of my locks of the whole entire slate at his current price of $7,600. Travis Kelce should have a field day going up against this Denver Broncos team. So I'm loving him at his price, and you can go 2 tight end in this type of stack. All right, let's move on to our value play. For the value plays for Week 14, we're going to start out at the quarterback position here, and we will go to Tyler Huntley here, taking over for the injured Lamar Jackson. And this is pretty much the spitting version of Lamar Jackson. This is Lamar Jackson light here in Tyler Huntley. He's going to provide the same upside in the rushing department, and that's what we want because at his cheap price of $5,500, Going up against these Pittsburgh Steelers, he can create on his legs. He can create with his arm as well. And he connected very well last year when he took over for Lamar Jackson with Mark Andrews. All right, Mark Andrews had bananas games, like ridiculous games with Tyler Huntley at quarterback. So he's going to be connecting with the number one option on the offense. I love the upside with the legs as well. Tyler Huntley isn't afraid at all. Next quarterback that we're going to look at $5,000, $700 in salary, Trevor Lawrence. If you're looking for another punt QB, Trevor Lawrence is coming off a poor performance against Detroit. Let's keep it honest there. Struggled against that defense, which was a shock to me, but played well against Baltimore and Kansas City. He's coming to a game where we got the Tennessee Titans, and we're looking at fantasy points allowed to that quarterback position. The Tennessee Titans are struggling. 29th overall, almost near 300 yards passing per game to their quarterback position, 1.8 TDs. That is going to equal very well for Trevor Lawrence and his wide receiver. So I love him. And then our last punt quarterback will be Mike White of the New York Jets. We're going to keep riding this wave. In week 12, 27 fantasy points. Week 13 against Minnesota, 22 fantasy points. Will we get another 20-plus fantasy point performance from Mike White? I think we can yet again. This could be a game as well that could go a little bit higher than what expected between the Jets and the Buffalo Bills. Mike White has been outstanding so far, taking over the reins at quarterback for the New York Jets, and he's in another good spot. All right, let's move on to the running back positions. We're going to start off with D'Onta Foreman. D'Onta Foreman, you only play him in very good game scripts, okay? And this is a particularly good one here in the Seattle Seahawks. If we're looking at fantasy points allowed to that running back position, the Seattle Seahawks are dead last, all right? 32nd overall, 30th in the red zone, allowing 168 yards a game to that running back position, 5.3 yards a carry, 1.7 TDs. We could have an absolutely monster game for D'Onta Foreman, and he has done it already this year. Against Denver, 100 yards. Against Atlanta, 130 yards and a touchdown. Against Atlanta again, 118 yards and 3 touchdowns. Against against Tampa Bay, 100 yards as well. So we've seen the big blow games from D'Onta Foreman. He's in an absolutely smash spot here against the Seattle Seahawks, and I love him for Week 14. He's going to be my favorite running back for Week 14. All right. Another area that we're going to attack for that running back position will be these Dallas Cowboys against the Houston Texans, who struggle against the running back. So both of these guys here, Tony Pollard, who had 24 fantasy points and 2 touchdowns, he's in an awesome spot. And Zeke Elliott is in an awesome spot as well, getting double-digit touches. He's coming off a solid game as well, 18 fantasy points. So both of these guys, Pollard, Zeke, maybe you throw them both together. That'll be super contrarian, and they're going to have a field day going up against the Houston Texans. All right. One more guy that's going to be in a very good game script is going to be the Philadelphia Eagles, Miles Sanders here. At his salary of $6,200, he got in the end zone as well against Tennessee. A little bit of low volume there because they threw all over Tennessee, and it was pretty much a blowout. But we've seen some upside against Green Bay in good environments where he had 21 carries, 143 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Chipped in with 3 receptions as well. The Giants struggle against running backs as well. We're going to them. Fantasy points allowed to that running back position. 27th overall, 28th in the red zone, allowing 133 yards, 4.7 yards per carry, 1.2 TDs a game. So Miles Sanders at $6,200. He's in a good spot. Jalen Hurts, he factors into the running game. He's in a good spot as well. So you really want to take advantage of that. Miles Sanders is another guy we can look at. All right, let's go over to the wide receivers. We got a couple gems here. All right, we're going to pair it with the guys we already spoke about. Number 1 was Tyler Huntley. So that means we're going to go to the Baltimore wide receivers, and that's going to be Demarcus Robinson and Devin Duvernay here. Devin Duvernay is used in the multiple facets because he has that speed upside. He's going to get carries. He's going to get receptions as well. So at $4,400, I like him at his current salary. Definitely cheap enough. He's going to fly under the radar. No one's going to just rely on Devin Duvernay. Oh, he's going to get 100+ yards, but he is so explosive. He's going to get opportunities. They scheme plays for him, and he has a great situation where he can get in the end zone and have a great day. All right, we saw 16 fantasy points from him against Tampa Bay. We saw 21 against the Jets, and 12 against Cincinnati, and 12 against Miami. So there's upside at that very, very cheap price at 4,400. The other wide receivers we want to look at will be the Jacksonville Jaguars here, and that's going to be the pairing of Christian Kirk and Zay Jones. All right, both of these guys are in awesome spots. Christian Kirk was in a great spot last week. Didn't get in the end zone. I expect him to get in the end zone against Tennessee Titans. They're allowing way too many yards to the wide receivers, and I like his price at 6,600. And then Zay Jones has so many games where he has big usage. All right, week 14, 10 targets. Week 10, 10 targets. If we go a little bit before that, week 7, 10 targets. Week 5, 8 targets. In week 3, 11 targets. So he's getting peppered. He has the upside to really have a huge day at $4,700. So Zay Jones is going to be the number 2 in that offense going up against Tennessee. All right, and then last but not least, we have the New York Jets duo between last week it was Garrett Wilson and Corey Davis. This week it could be Garrett Wilson and Elijah Moore. He's getting finally getting a nice snap share in the offense. Elijah Moore, he has so much upside now playing in that slot position. 60% snap share we saw from him last week. And then the main guy here, he's just been an absolute stud. Rookie wide receiver in Garrett Wilson, coming off a smash game, 8 receptions, 15 targets, 162 yards, 27 fantasy points. Didn't get an end zone, but still killed the slate. And he is on pace to break records as a rookie wide receiver for the New York Jets. I'm loving him. Let's go towards the tight ends, and let's clear out this video here. The first guy we're going to look towards will be Okonkwo, all right? Tennessee Titans in this game, they do have 2 tight ends between Austin Hooper, but we're going to go with the guy that is more explosive here in Chig Okonkwo. He came through for 4 for 5 for 68. He has that upside and has that speed size combination that can definitely set himself apart. And this is one of the best matchups against tight ends going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars. So give me Chig Okonkwo in this game. I already spoke about Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews is a lock for this week. Definitely go towards him at that tight end position at 6,500. And one more guy here, George Kittle's in a very good spot as well at 4,300. So he's a very cheap salary, but we know his upside. All right, so I have no problem going towards George Kittle at 4,300. All right, thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at MetsNetShetsD, and I'll be back with another video very soon. All right, peace out, guys.